Pop Culture Pastor.
I get the Brad Pitt movies confused. Like Brad Pitt movies, there's one with a gorilla, and then there's one where he's like the literal embodiment of death. Meet Joe Black, but I was like, is that the one where he's friends with a gorilla?
So, Meet Joe Black he's death.
Okay, that's pretty much a documentary, right?
Pretty much. And then Mighty Joe Young.
Mighty Joe Young. It's not Meet Joe Young. It's Mighty Joe Young.
Yes.
But you can see how it would be confusing.
There's Joe in the title and an M word at the beginning. And yeah, so Meet and Mighty.
I don't want to throw any shade at Brad, but like I feel like Brad's the same dude in every movie. He gets to be like the cool guy. Like Ocean's 11, those movies are perfect movies for him and George Clooney in a lot of ways because they get to be just cool, like cool versions of themselves. That's what I feel like I could be an actor, and that would be the only role I played where I got to play very cool versions of myself.
So I will say Mighty Joe Young does not have Brad.
Oh, it doesn't have Brad.
It doesn't have
He's
Brad.
not in that movie.
It just comes out about the same time as Meet Joe Black. And
so who's in Mighty Joe Young?
Good question.
Just a gorilla?
Bill Paxton.
Oh, hey, yeah, Bill Paxton.
And a young Charlize Theron.
Charlize Theron. Okay. Holy cow, that's a lot of star power in a movie about a gorilla.
I know. And yet I get those two movies confused. Not in story, but in name.
It must just be a thing because even though you said Mighty Joe Young and you're telling me who's in it, all I can think of is Operation Dumbo Drop. That's not the same movie either. Completely different movie about dropping an elephant.
Yeah, that doesn't even have a gorilla.
You shouldn't drop elephants. They're delicate and they make a mess.
They are delicate. And literally, I mean, E equals MC squared.
I don't know where we're going with this, but good afternoon. Welcome to Pop Culture Pastor. Operation Dumbo Drop is all about somebody dropping an elephant and having to clean up the mess that in my head. I've never seen that movie. I've never heard anything about that movie. Was it a kids movie? Was it like a Disney thing? I don't even remember, but
I have a feeling it wasn't.
Someone let me know. Did it star Dennis Quaid? I feel like it should star Dennis Quaid. Just because that seems like a Quaid-y movie. These are the sort of ramblings we can go on for quite a while here at Pop Culture Pastor. Let's just go to the music.
Please and thank you.
We're glad you're here. All right, Cody. I want to talk about this because sometimes in our current state of journalism, it's funny to me the claims that we try to make and then we will try to back up, right? Literally, it doesn't even matter what claim you want to make. If you Google it, you'll be able to find articles on it.
I'm claiming I am the most trusted name in journalism.
If I Googled Cody, the most trusted name in journalism, I could find some story, quote unquote story, that I could be like, look, there it is in writing. It must be true.
It is.
This is what the internet has done to us. It's kind of this weird thing where people just write things to try and prove what they want to prove. I'm heading somewhere because I've just an article has just come across my consciousness here. And I saw the headline and my eyebrows went up. I was like, oh, really? I did not know that. That seems surprising to me. And then I start reading the article and I'm like, wait a minute. Once you dig deeper, you're like, I'm not sure this claim is true at all. And if it is, I'm not sure it's any different than any other generation because it is written in a generational perspective. So I'm just going to give you the claim.
Name it and claim it.
Yeah. I'm just going to give you the headline and the sub-headline. Okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to let you process that. This is from the BBC.
Most trusted name in journalism outside of Cody.
Sure. Sure. Here's the headline. Why young workers are putting in so much overtime. That's the headline.
What?
I'm just reading you the headline, bro. The subheadline says this. In the current economic climate, Gen Zers are pulling especially long hours and pushing themselves to the brink of burnout.
What?
I love that you have problems with this already. I told you, I read the headline and I was like, oh, okay.
This is news. Earth-shattering news.
Like, and listen, I'm just going to tell you, this is written by obviously someone in England. And like, look, after reading the article, I don't have to. The journalist's name is Megan Tatum. And I haven't even looked at her about, if she has an about at the bottom here, because I don't really have to know that she's a Gen Zer. Because this whole article is about what you would expect. She's going to try to prove to you why Gen Z is the hardest working generation currently.
It's because the World War II generation is slowly dying off.
Yeah, I don't want to make it a competition. I don't want to make it about that. But I do want to analyze this article and
the amount of overtime? Come on.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. Oh, listen, you haven't heard anything yet. It's going to be hilarious.
This is going to be sad.
So I came across this article by Megan Tatum on the BBC. And basically the headline seems to indicate that Gen Z are putting in the most overtime and that they're the ones that Gen Z is just the hardest working generation. That's basically what the article is going to try to prove.
That is what I know and love about Gen Z.
Now, look, I know we have baby boomers, excuse me, who are listening to the station and they're like, yeah, whatever, Gen Z. And you're a millennial and you were even like, what? You were like, no, come on, Gen Z. You were like, you're incredulous. I am. But patting Gen Z on the head, like, okay. I'm Gen X, so I'm just like, whatever. That's always our reaction to everything. But I did find this funny because I want to read you the first paragraph of the article. Now, listen, this is an article designed to try to prove to you that Gen Z is the hardest working generation currently. Quote, Jasmine has always been a hard worker. While studying for her undergraduate degree in cultural and media studies at the University of Leeds in the UK, she would routinely put in a 30-hour work week at a part-time job to pay her rent. She then secured a full-time job at a PR agency while midway through her master's degree. Now, full stop. She's always been a hard worker. That's the claim.
Way to go, Jasmine.
And the proof is she was working 30-hour part-time job while she was in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Go on. I'm waiting for the part. That's hard. Wait, what? This is what sometimes I don't understand about Gen Z is they're experiencing all the things we experienced, and they have this real isolationist way of looking at the world. Oh, I do not like my situation. How come this is happening to us? Like, no, you don't understand. We all experienced that. Yeah, we all worked, most of us. I mean, did I know kids, young people in college who weren't working, whose parents were footing the bill? Sure.
But living the dream.
But they were by far the minority. Most people in college are working.
Jasmine, this young professional lady who...
Yeah, I think you can... I feel like we know her.
Yes. Getting her master's degree, partway through it, decides to get a full-time job. I'm going to pour it back on me because it's about me.
Yes. Millennial.
Yeah.
Go on, millennial.
Literally just completed a master's degree while working not only a full-time job, not only a part-time job, but also helping with a podcast.
Yes. Volunteering. He has volunteer hours.
I have volunteer hours on top of the full-time hours and the part-time hours. And
yeah.
There's so many hours.
Yeah. Meanwhile, as you, the millennial, were like, let's talk about me.
Yes.
I, the Gen X, am just sitting here stewing like, why aren't we talking about me? We never talk about me.
Exactly.
When in reality, I talk about me all the time. That's Gen X, right? Why isn't it ever about me? We just stew and we sit here in a bad mood. That's my generation. But yes, back to Gen Z, the hardest working generation. So your first example is a real world example of someone working their way through college.
I'm proud of you, Jasmine, for working.
Well, hold on. Yeah.
And finishing your degree.
Let's not denigrate that. My point to Jasmine and the author of this article is no. That was the experience for most of us. You're just joining in what is largely the human experience in the United States in a capitalist society. In this case, she's in Britain, but a westernized society.
Yes. TV makes it look like everyone's having their college paid for left and right.
Do I wish we could go to college, all of us, and get that extra education and not have to work? Yeah, that'd be great. Just focus on learning. Although, let's be honest, young people, you're not just focused on learning. You know what I'm saying?
I was.
Cody is a better man than I. So I want to move on in this article where the writer is clearly trying to tell us that Gen Z is the hardest working generation. And it's still telling us about Jasmine. So in the first paragraph, they talked about how Jasmine's a hard worker because she is, while doing her undergraduate studies in college, working 30 hours a week. To which our reaction to that was, yeah. Why wouldn't you? You got to live, right?
Gotta pay for that rent and college books somehow.
Here's the next paragraph. It just keeps getting better. Now a media relations executive at the same company, Jasmine no longer works a part-time job in addition to her full-time role, but she's still putting in plenty of overtime. Quote, this is Jasmine talking now. I often start my day very early reading what's breaking news in education, tech, or the climate, as my job requires me to know what's going on across a very broad range of topics. Often in the evenings, I'll spend a couple of hours making sure I'm ready for the next day. And on a Sunday, I'll often head to Cafe Nero for a coffee and croissant to do admin and make sure I'm set up for the week ahead. Her partner and friends of a similar age approach work in much the same way, the article says. Taking business on holiday or cramming in extra hours in the evenings, mornings, and weekends. Thoughts? This is more proof that somehow Gen Z is the hardest working generation ever. And I'm just like, you have not described anything different than all of our experience.
And once you get to, what was her official position?
She is a media relations executive.
Okay, so she's an executive.
How much do you think she's getting paid, first of all?
So I promise you, she is not hourly.
Oh,
she
no.
is salary.
No, she's salaried. She's like, she doesn't know how good she's got it.
And unfortunately, when you take on those jobs, there is an expectation that you are also going to put in extra work. I know TV makes it look like everyone that is an executive just takes off halfway through the day and plays 18 holes of golf. Unfortunately, that is like the 1%ers again, and you will have to actually work. But like her job duties of, well, I start my news or start my morning off reading the news for work, and I'm like, you get to read? Like, that's part of your job? You're reading. It's not
she has time for coffee and croissants.
Like, I was expecting this article to have her be in a coal mine.
Oh, no.
And she was working 14-hour days.
Coal miners stopped reading this article after the first sentence. They're like, nope, not doing it. It becomes laughable when you start comparing it. Like, let's just, because I'm Gen X, let's just compare it to me.
Yeah, it's about Dave, finally.
When are we going to talk about me, says Gen X? Well, right now. And granted, we work in ministry, and that's a little bit different. But let me tell you something about the radio here. I'm the only employee. I run this radio station. Do you know, since I started working here at this radio station, I have never gone one day without having to do something to and for and with the radio station. I have no days off. there's never a day where my mind isn't at least occupied by the radio station. At some point in the day, I have to set up the logs. I have to make sure it's running okay. And there's no one else to do that. It's just me.
Literally one time, Mark and myself had to call you while you were in Mexico.
Yeah.
On a mission trip.
I went to Israel in 2019. I woke up early every morning and stayed up late every night to make sure that the next day was going to run smoothly for the radio station. I had to do logs. So even when I go on vacation, I'm not really on vacation for my job. So what is it you're trying to say, writer of this article, about how all the hard work you're doing? Here's where I want to end up. You know how when we're trying to prove something in journalism now, we go to all these studies.
I am waiting for a good study.
And we manipulate what the study says to try and fit our own purposes. This is a great example. Listen to this. April data from the ADP Research Institute's people at work, 2023 report, which surveyed 32,000 workers across 17 countries, show people ages 18 to 24 tend to put in an extra 8 hours and 30 minutes of free work. And this says that statistics and experts agree and say young people are the most likely to be putting in unpaid overtime. Cody, why would a young person be putting in more unpaid overtime?
Because they're trying to make it improve themselves.
Because they're the bottom rung on the ladder.
They are.
This is part of the overall normal experience for the corporate American and westernized world. When you are on the bottom of the barrel, you start off in the mailroom, you got to put in the extra hours and not get benefited for it.
And also, the reason that you probably see a decline in extra hours as you get older is because you just get fed up with it.
Yeah. The differences in our generations isn't that your experience is different. It's that you're isolated, Gen Z. You think that you're the only people this has happened to. It's like, no, you are living the general experience, which most older Americans and westernized society peoples have experienced.
When I was your age, I was putting in 20 extra hours.
In my day, let me tell you the difference. The difference is Gen Z so far in limited time, they still have a chance to change this, seems to be the squeakiest wheel.
They do, in which I will say the current employment atmosphere is there's a lot of push to limit burnout, to be efficient and effective in the least amount of time. And so they're becoming a squeaky wheel probably at a keen moment to be a squeaky wheel, just because there is like this trying to make workplaces better.
Now, we spent some time poking fun. Don't hear what I'm not saying. Let me say this, Gen Z. Does it mean you're wrong? Not necessarily. It's good to point out our system and say that things aren't perfect for everything and everybody in every situation. That's okay. My generation, Gen Xers, we tended to keep everything in until we explode, which isn't a great way to handle anything either. So what I'm not saying is that you're not right in the saying and sensing that this isn't right. We're not meant to work like this. We're not meant to exist like this. And I would say, yes, I think that's true. But then we get back into the brokenness of the world.
And I'll say, as a millennial, I'm just over here doing everything.
Whatever.